I never thought I'd be the type to find myself in a situation like this. My name's Jake, and I'm a 35-year-old software developer living in a small town in Ohio with my wife, Lisa, who's a graphic designer. We've been married for 7 years, and while things weren't perfect, I always thought we had a solid foundation. You know how it is, you get comfortable in the routine of life. Lisa and I had our ups and downs like any couple, but I genuinely believed we were in it together. That was until the pandemic hit and suddenly, everyone was working from home. At first, it seemed like a blessing. I loved having Lisa around, and we would often take breaks together, making coffee or catching up on our favorite shows. But as time went on, I started to notice subtle but concerning changes in her behavior. The late nights at the computer, the secretive phone calls, and the odd snippets of conversations she'd have that ended abruptly when I walked into the room. At first, I brushed it off. I told myself she was just stressed about work or maybe she needed some space. But then, I began to feel a nagging suspicion. I decided to take matters into my own hands, so I installed monitoring software on our home network. I know that sounds drastic, but it felt justified in a way. I felt like I was losing my grip on our life together, and it was terrifying. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I sat at my desk and opened the software. What I found made my blood run cold. I stumbled upon a series of messages between Lisa and someone named Mark. My heart raced as I read through their exchanges. They were flirty at first, but soon they turned explicit. My stomach dropped. I could barely breathe as I clicked through the messages, and the world around me faded into a blur. The worst part, the timeline of their conversations matched up with the nights I thought she was working late. It felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I was furious, confused, and devastated all at once. I spent the next few hours packing the house, trying to make sense of what I had discovered. I wanted to scream, to throw things, but instead, I found myself frozen in disbelief. How could she do this to me? How could she betray everything we had built together? The next day, I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't let this go unanswered. I was shaking as I waited for her to come home. When Lisa walked through the door, I could tell something was off with her. She had this smile plastered on her face, as if nothing had happened. I felt a storm brewing inside me as I waited for the right moment to drop the bombshell. Finally, during dinner, I laid it all out. I told her I knew about Mark, about the messages, and about her late nights. Her reaction was instant. She turned white, and for a moment I thought she might faint. But then something shifted in her. Instead of being remorseful, she became defensive. "You have no right to spy on me, Jake," she shouted, her voice dripping with indignation. "I can't believe you would invade my privacy like that." I was shocked. I expected some level of guilt, maybe a tear or two, but instead, I got a barrage of excuses. She claimed that Mark was just a friend, that they were only talking to vent about work stress. It was infuriating. The lies were spilling out of her mouth so easily. I felt like I was losing my mind. Her anger made me feel like the villain in our story, and that twisted the knife even deeper. I was the one who was betrayed, yet I felt like I was the one being attacked. I argued with her, trying to make her understand how deeply she had hurt me, but it was like talking to a wall. I felt suffocated, trapped in a conversation that was going nowhere. Finally, I just walked out. I needed air, I needed to think. As I paced our front porch, my mind raced through the implications of what had just happened. How was I supposed to move forward? The woman I loved had shattered my trust. I felt lost, like I was standing on the edge of a cliff with no idea whether to jump or step back. This was just the beginning of a long, painful journey that would force me to confront not only my feelings of betrayal, but also what I truly wanted in life moving forward. Little did I know. This was only the start of a series of events that would change everything. The night after the confrontation was torturous. I barely slept, tossing and turning as thoughts of betrayal replayed in my mind like a twisted movie reel. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw Lisa's face, the anger, the defiance, the sheer lack of remorse. I kept asking myself how everything had gone so wrong. The house felt huge and empty, like a cavern echoing with the memories of happier times that now felt tainted. The next morning, I decided to confront her again. I needed answers, and I wasn't going to let her brush me off with flimsy excuses. The sun was shining, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. I made coffee and sat down at the kitchen table, waiting for her to come down. When she finally appeared, her hair messy and eyes puffy from a sleepless night, I could tell she was still defensive. "Can we talk?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I don't know what more there is to say, Jake." "I told you Mark is just a colleague," she responded, crossing her arms as if to shield herself from my scrutiny. "No, Lisa, you're not getting it. I saw the messages. It's not just work talk. It's personal. It's intimate. You're lying to me," I pressed, my voice rising with frustration. "How can you sit there and pretend like this is normal?" She shifted uncomfortably, glancing away. "I was just trying to cope with everything. You were working long hours and I felt lonely. Mark was there for me, okay? I didn't mean for it to go this far." "So you just decided to have an affair rather than talk to your husband? You could have communicated with me. I would have listened." My anger pierced through my words, but behind it was an overwhelming sense of betrayal and sadness. "Maybe I didn't feel like I could. You were absorbed in your work and I needed someone to connect with," she replied, her voice rising defensively. "What do you want me to say? I'm sorry, I was weak. You don't know what it's like." Her words hung in the air, thick with accusation and pain. I had never seen this side of her before, this bitter, angry woman who was lashing out instead of taking responsibility. I thought I knew Lisa, but this felt like a stranger. "What I want is for you to take responsibility for your actions. You can't just blame me for your choices." I shot back, feeling a mix of anger and despair. We went back and forth like this for what felt like hours, each of us digging our heels in deeper. I could see her facade starting to crack, but no apology came. Instead, she stormed out of the room, leaving me feeling helpless and infuriated. After she left, I needed to clear my head. I took a drive around town, replaying everything in my mind. I thought about my friends and family, how I would explain this situation to them. I felt ashamed. How could I let things get this far? That's when I made a decision. It was time to gather evidence, to confront this affair head-on. I couldn't just sit back and let Lisa manipulate the narrative. I wanted to know the truth, and if she was going to continue this with Mark, I needed to see it for myself. Over the next few days, I immersed myself in what felt like detective work. I monitored her online activity, tracked her calls, and even looked at her social media accounts. Every notification that popped up on my phone made my heart race. The more I dug, the more I uncovered. Lisa and Mark had been exchanging flirty texts, sending each other intimate photos, and planning to meet up. Each discovery was like a knife twisting deeper inside me. I felt a mixture of rage and betrayal with every new piece of evidence. I didn't want to believe it, yet here I was, living a nightmare. It became clear that I wasn't just dealing with a fleeting moment of weakness. This had become a full-blown affair. Finally, I decided it was time to execute my plan. I was going to confront both of them. I wanted Mark to understand what he had taken from me and to see the reality of what he was doing. I started by tracking Lisa's schedule, figuring out when she would be at home alone. The idea of facing them both made my stomach churn, but I was determined. I set a date. It was a Saturday afternoon, the day I planned to catch them. In the act, as I sat in my car outside our house, I could feel the adrenaline surging through me. The plan was risky. What if I found nothing? What if I was wrong? But deep down, I knew I needed to do this. I felt like a soldier preparing for battle, ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. My love, my marriage, my dignity. It was time to bring this affair into the light, and I was ready for whatever confrontation lay ahead. Little did I know, the events of that day would shatter what remained of my trust and forever alter the course of my life. The minutes dragged on like hours as I sat in my car, heart racing, hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread mixed with determination. I pictured Lisa and Mark together, laughing, sharing intimate moments that should have been reserved for me. Each thought felt like a punch to the gut, but I held onto my resolve. I needed to see it for myself, to confront the reality of what was happening. After what felt like an eternity, I finally saw Lisa pull into the driveway. She seemed carefree, completely unaware of the storm brewing just outside our home. I took a deep breath, mentally preparing myself for what was about to unfold. I had every intention of filming their encounter. If I was going to confront them, I needed proof to hold against her, something to show how deeply she had betrayed me. I snuck around to the side of the house, keeping myself hidden as I waited for her to go inside. The door closed behind her, and I felt a rush of adrenaline. I quickly pulled out my phone, ready to record. I could hear her voice through the window as she spoke to Mark over video chat. As the conversation progressed, I realized she was gushing about how much she missed him and how they needed to meet up soon. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. This wasn't just a fleeting moment, this was a full-blown relationship. I hit record, capturing every word. I thought about how I would later use this evidence to confront her, to show her how she had completely disregarded our vows. Suddenly, Lisa laughed, a sound that once brought me joy but now felt like nails. On a chalkboard, I could hear Mark's voice through the phone too, but it was mostly muffled. I leaned closer, straining to catch every word. "I can't wait to see you, Lisa. Just a few more days and we'll finally be together. It's going to be amazing," he said, and I felt my heart drop. I couldn't take it anymore. I burst through the door, my blood boiling. "Amazing? Is that what you call this?" I shouted, revealing myself as I entered the living room. Lisa's eyes widened in shock and Mark's face on the screen froze in disbelief. "Jake, what are you doing here?" she exclaimed, her voice trembling. "Just capturing the moment for posterity," I said, holding up my phone, still recording. I was livid and I wanted them both to see just how furious I was. "You know, I thought I'd give you a little surprise. How's it feel to be caught red-handed?" Mark scrambled to turn off his video feed, but it was too late. I had seen enough. I could see the panic in Lisa's eyes as she tried to piece together an explanation. "Jake, please, let me explain." She stammered, but I wasn't interested in her excuses anymore. "Explain what? How you've been lying to me for months, how you've been sharing your life with someone else while I've been faithful to you." My voice cracked with emotion. "You think that's justifiable because you felt lonely? You think this is how you fix things?" "Jake, it's not what you think. We were just," she started, but I cut her off. "Just what? Having a little fun on the side. Do you even hear yourself?" I was yelling now, unable to hold back the flood of anger. "You've shattered everything we built together and you want me to sit here and listen to you justify it." She opened her mouth to argue, but I could see that she was struggling to form any coherent defense. I could tell she was realizing how far she had fallen in my eyes. "I can't believe you would do this to me, Lisa. I trusted you." I shouted, frustration bubbling over. Mark's voice echoed from the now blank screen. "This is messed up, Lisa. You need to tell him the truth." I turned towards the blank screen, feeling the rage bubble inside me. "Oh, so now you want to play the good guy. You think I'm going to let you off the hook for this? You're equally to blame." Lisa's expression shifted from shock to anger. "Fine, you want the truth." I fell for Mark. I felt like I was losing you and he was there. It was easy. Her words dripped with bitterness and I was taken aback. "You fell for him," I echoed, my voice thick with disbelief. "You think that's an excuse? You think that justifies betraying me?" "You could have talked to me, Lisa. You could have told me you were feeling lonely and I would have tried to fix it. I didn't think you'd care." She shot back, her eyes blazing with anger. "Of course I'd care, but now all I see is a woman who doesn't care about our marriage at all." I took a step back, feeling the weight of her betrayal crashing down on me like a tidal wave. The confrontation spiraled into a chaotic exchange of accusations, crying, and shouting. I felt like I was in a surreal nightmare, each word stacking up like bricks in a wall between us. Finally, I reached the breaking point. I couldn't continue this fight. I was exhausted. "I can't do this anymore. I need time to think," I said, pain lacing my voice. I stormed out of the house, leaving Lisa standing there, tears streaming down her face, still trying to process the calamity of what just happened. I didn't even know where I was going. I just needed to get away from her and the heartbreak that filled our home. As I drove aimlessly, I felt a mix of anger and sorrow swirling within me. My life was shattered. I had trusted her, believed in our love, and now all of that felt like a cruel joke. I needed to figure out what came next, how I would dig myself out of this emotional wreckage. It was time to consider my options and find a way to reclaim my life. Little did I know, the aftermath of this confrontation would be just as tumultuous as the betrayal itself. The days that followed the confrontation were a blur of confusion and heartache. I found myself in a strange limbo, caught between anger and sorrow, between wanting to lash out and wanting to understand. I stayed at a friend's house, needing a reprieve from the suffocating atmosphere of our home. Each time I closed my eyes, I could still see Lisa's face contorted in anger, the betrayal etched into her features, and the way Mark's voice had echoed in that hollow room. I hadn't expected the fallout to be so all-consuming. I thought I'd be filled with righteous anger, ready to move forward and make decisions about our marriage. Instead, I felt lost, like I had stepped off the edge of a cliff but hadn't yet hit the ground. I spent hours scrolling through social media, half-heartedly trying to see if Lisa had posted anything that would give me insight into her mind. Of course, she hadn't. I could only imagine how she felt. The woman I married, the person I thought I knew, had vanished behind a wall of deceit. Eventually, I decided to reach out to some close friends. I needed support, and I needed to talk about what I was going through. My friend Mike, who had been through a rough divorce a few years back, picked up the phone right away. I told him everything, from the first signs of trouble to the confrontation that had left me feeling so raw. He listened patiently, offering empathy and some well-needed advice. "Jake," he said, his voice steady and calm, "you need to take care of yourself first. You can't make decisions about your marriage when you're feeling this way. Give yourself time to process everything." His words resonated deeply. I realized I had been so consumed by the betrayal that I hadn't taken a moment to care for myself. I started focusing on what I could do to ground myself. I picked up running, something I had dropped years ago, and found solace in the physical exertion. It became my therapy. I'd lace up my sneakers, put on my earbuds, and pound the pavement, letting the rhythm of my feet take me away from the turmoil of my mind. Over the next few days, I found myself reflecting on my marriage. I thought about the happy moments interspersed with the painful ones, the vacations we'd taken, the cozy nights spent watching movies, and even the times we'd fought. My heart ached at the thought of what we had built together, and now all of it seemed tainted by this betrayal. Despite everything, I felt a strange inclination to reach out to Lisa. I wasn't ready for closure, but I wanted to understand her perspective better. Maybe there was a part of her that still cared, still wanted to salvage what we had, so I texted her. "Can we talk?" I typed, my fingers hovering over the send button for a moment before I finally pressed it. The response came almost instantly. "When?" I suggested meeting at a coffee shop, a neutral ground where we could at least pretend to be civil. When the day arrived, I was a mess of nerves. I hadn't seen her since the confrontation, and the thought of facing her again felt daunting. I arrived early, ordering a coffee and staring out the window, watching people walk by, each lost in their own world. Finally, I saw her approach, looking different but somehow the same. Her hair was pulled back, and she wore a simple dress that I remembered from our early years together. I felt an ache in my chest as she sat down across from me. The tension was palpable, the air thick with unspoken words. "Hey," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hey," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. We both sat in silence for a moment, the weight of what had happened hanging heavily between us. I could see the uncertainty in her eyes as she avoided my gaze. Finally, I broke the silence. "I wanted to talk because I still care about you, despite everything that's happened. But I need to understand why you did this." Her expression shifted, the mask of defiance slipping away. "I don't know how to explain it," she began, her voice trembling. "I felt so alone, and I thought you were pulling away. I got caught up in this connection with Mark, and it felt good to be wanted again, but I never intended for it to go this far." "Didn't intend," I shot back, frustration bubbling over. "You could have stopped at any time. You could have come to me. I would have listened. But instead, you chose to betray me." "I know," she said, tears brimming in her eyes. "And I hate myself for it. I just didn't know how to reach out, Jake. I was scared of losing you, of being vulnerable. But I see now that I just made everything worse." Her honesty caught me off guard. It was the first time I felt a glimmer of the woman I once knew, a woman capable of vulnerability and remorse. As she spoke, I realized that while I was deeply hurt, I also wanted to understand what had driven her to seek comfort outside our marriage. We went back and forth for what felt like hours, talking about our relationship, our fears, and the realities we faced. I listened, trying to absorb her perspective while wrestling with my own feelings of betrayal. There were moments of silence when I could see the regret etched on her face, and for the first time I felt a crack in my own anger. Eventually, we reached a point of clarity. "What do you want now?" I asked, my voice steady. "Do you want to work on this? Do you want to try to rebuild?" Lisa took a long breath, looking away as though she were searching for the right words. "I want to try. I know it will take time. And I understand if you need to walk away. But I want to fight for us if you're willing to." Her admission hit me hard. I felt a mixture of hope and skepticism. Could we actually rebuild from this? Could we find a way to move forward? I had no answers, only the knowledge that the road ahead would be difficult, fraught with doubt and uncertainty. But for the first time since discovering her affair, I felt a small flicker of possibility. As we left the coffee shop, I knew that this conversation was just the beginning of a long journey. We had a long way to go, but at least now, we were moving forward together, however shaky that path might be. Little did I know that the real test of our relationship was yet to come, and it would challenge everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and redemption. The days after our conversation at the coffee shop were a whirlwind of emotions. I returned home to find a strange mix of hope and uncertainty swirling inside me. We had agreed to give it a shot, to try and rebuild our relationship, but the question loomed. Large, could we really return to the way things were? I wasn't sure, and the thought drove me a little crazy. As the weeks went by, we spent more time together, but the shadow of her betrayal loomed over us like a dark cloud. I could see that Lisa was trying, but the effort felt a bit forced, as if she were trying to convince herself that everything would be all right. I could sense the tension in the air every time we shared a quiet moment. Trust doesn't just repair itself. It's a fragile thing, and ours had been shattered. We decided to attend couples therapy, hoping that a professional could help us navigate the mess we were in. The therapist, Sarah, was kind and understanding, guiding us through exercises that forced us to confront the difficult emotions we were both feeling. I found it cathartic to talk about my anger and pain, and I appreciated how Lisa was willing to be vulnerable in front of someone else. She cried often, admitting how deeply she regretted her choices. Yet, while Lisa was ready to open up, I struggled to let go of the anger that had built up inside me. I often found myself slipping into moments of doubt, replaying the betrayal in my mind. I would watch her when she thought I wasn't looking, searching for signs that she was still hiding something. I felt like I was walking on a tightrope, teetering between wanting to forgive her and being unable to shake the feeling of betrayal. One particular session hit me hard. We were discussing the specifics of why Lisa had turned to Mark, and she revealed something that I hadn't known. "I didn't feel desired anymore, Jake. I thought you were just so focused on work and I felt invisible. When Mark started giving me attention, it filled that void. But it was a mistake, and I'm sorry for that," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. For the first time, I saw the depth of her loneliness, the insecurity that had pushed her into the arms of another man. I realized that it wasn't just about infidelity. It was about the cracks in our relationship that had gone unaddressed for so long. My heart ached for her suffering, but I couldn't help but think about how I had felt, betrayed and unwanted as well. After several sessions, I began to recognize that rebuilding would take more than therapy. It would require both of us to actively work at making each other feel valued and loved again. I tried to communicate more openly with Lisa, letting her know when I was feeling overwhelmed or stressed. In turn, she made an effort to reassure me of her commitment, filling our home with little notes of love and encouragement. But just when I thought we were making progress, the past came back to haunt me. One evening, while I was tidying up the living room, I found an old photo album lying on the coffee table. My heart sank as I opened it, memories flooding back of happier times. But as I flipped through the pages, I stumbled upon a picture of Lisa and me at a party, a time when everything felt perfect between us. Her smile in that photo was genuine, but it felt like a painful reminder of what had been lost. I shut the album and felt tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. The weight of our situation felt heavier than ever. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were still living in a fragile state, that every moment of happiness might be overshadowed by the reality of what had happened. I needed to talk to Lisa about how I was feeling, but I hesitated, afraid of opening old wounds. That night I waited until we were in bed, the darkness wrapping around us like a shroud. I could hear her breathing softly beside me, and I finally gathered the courage to speak. "Lisa," I said quietly, "I found the photo album today, and it made me realize how difficult this is for me. I want to move forward, but I still feel like I'm carrying the weight of your betrayal." She sighed, rolling onto her side to face me. "I understand, Jake. I'm sorry for hurting you. I'm trying to be better, but I see how hard this is for you. I wish I could take it back." "I know you do, but it's not that simple. I want to believe that we can rebuild, but I'm scared. I still think about Mark and what you did. It feels like an anchor pulling me down, and I don't know how to let it go." "I'll do whatever it takes to help you feel secure again," she promised, her eyes earnest. "I'll be transparent and I'll work on myself. Just please don't give up on us. I love you and I want to prove that to you." Her words held sincerity, and for a moment I felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps we could find a way to navigate the darkness together. I took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, let's keep working on this together. But I need you to be patient with me too. It won't happen overnight." "Of course," she replied, reaching out to take my hand in hers. "We'll take it one step at a time." In that moment, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. Even though the road ahead would be challenging, I was beginning to realize that healing would require both of us to be vulnerable and honest with one another. It was a process filled with ups and downs, but as long as we faced it together, I felt we could find a way to rebuild. Little did I know, though, that the real test of our commitment was still on the horizon, and the shadows of the past would soon resurface in a way that neither of us could have anticipated. As the weeks turned into months, I began to find a semblance of normalcy in my life with Lisa. We continued attending therapy and made it a point to have regular check-in conversations where we could share our feelings openly. There were good days when we could laugh and reminisce about our shared memories, and there were tough days when the weight of the past felt almost unbearable. Despite the progress, there was still a nagging feeling in the back of my mind, a sense of insecurity rooted in the knowledge of her betrayal. I tried to suppress it, telling myself that we were rebuilding, but deep down, the remnants of my anger and sadness lingered like a ghost in the corners of my heart. One evening, I came home from work earlier than usual, feeling optimistic about our plans for the weekend. I wanted to surprise Lisa with a homemade dinner, hoping to make it a special night. As I entered the house, I immediately sensed that something was off. The silence was heavy, and I felt a chill run down my spine. I called out for her, but there was no response. Confused, I made my way to the living room, and my stomach dropped as I caught sight of something that sent my heart racing. A familiar sight on the coffee table, Lisa's phone. The screen lit up with a message notification, and before I could stop myself, I picked it up, my hands trembling. The message was from Mark. "Can't wait to see you again, just a few more weeks. It'll be just like old times." My blood ran cold. I felt as if I had been punched in the gut. I could hardly breathe as the realization hit me. She had been lying to me again. I dropped the phone as if it were on fire, and it landed with a thud on the hardwood floor. My heart raced as I felt the world around me crumble. Before I could process my emotions, I heard the sound of the front door opening. Lisa walked in, her face brightening at the sight of me. "Hey, you're home early. I was just about to—" "About to what, Lisa?" I interrupted, my voice low but filled with fury. "Just about to betray me again." Her expression shifted from joy to confusion and then to horror as she glanced at the phone on the floor. "Jake, wait, it's not what you think. Not what I think. It looks pretty clear to me. You've been talking to him behind my back." I couldn't contain my anger. It poured out of me like a dam breaking. "After everything we've been through, how could you do this? I thought we were working on our marriage. Please let me explain." she pleaded, tears flooding her eyes. It's not like that. I thought I could handle it. I swear I was trying to push him away. I just wanted to see if I could still be friends with him. Friends, I scoffed, disbelief washing over me. You think I'm going to buy that? You're still in contact with the man you cheated on me with, and I'm supposed to be okay with it. I was lonely again, Jake. I thought I could manage it, but I didn't mean to hurt you. She cried, her voice breaking. Manage it. You're seriously telling me that you thought you could juggle a friendship with the man who shattered our trust? I could feel the tears stinging my eyes, but I fought them back. I can't believe this. Lisa stepped closer, desperation etched on her face. I'm so sorry. I thought I could handle it, but I didn't realize how much it was affecting me until now. I never meant to hurt you again, I promise. I stepped back, shaking my head. The pain swelled within me, and I felt as if the ground beneath my feet had disappeared. You've done it again, Lisa. You've crossed a line I can't come back from. I tried to forgive you, I really did. But this is too much. The reality of the situation hit me hard. I had been trying to rebuild a bridge that Lisa was actively burning down. I didn't want to be the villain in this story. I wanted to believe in love and second chances. But how could I move forward knowing that she was still tied to Mark? I can't do this anymore, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. I need to take a step back. This isn't working for me. I can't keep opening my heart to someone who keeps hurting me. Her face crumpled with anguish. Please don't say that. I'll end it with him, I swear. Just give me another chance. But it was too late. The trust had been broken one too many times, and I was exhausted. I turned and walked out of the house, leaving behind the memories, the love, and the betrayal that had haunted us for months. In the days that followed, I made the difficult decision to file for separation. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life unfold. I didn't take this step lightly, but deep down, I knew I deserved better than a love filled with uncertainty and betrayal. As I moved on, I reflected on everything I had learned throughout this painful experience. Trust is a fragile thing, easily shattered and difficult to rebuild. I learned that love is not just about commitment. It's about respect, honesty, and being there for one another in times of need. While I mourned the loss of my marriage, I also found strength in my vulnerability. I learned to prioritize my own mental health and happiness, something I had neglected for too long. I surrounded myself with friends and family who supported me through the process, and slowly but surely I began to heal. As I closed the chapter on my life with Lisa, I held on to the hope that I would find love again, one that would be built on a solid foundation of trust and mutual respect. In the end, I realized that sometimes letting go is the bravest thing you can do. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the one I needed to make for my own future, a future that I would reclaim on my own terms.